and welcome back to another episode of the High Styx Highlights Podcast presented by Smith Sports Media. I'm your host, LJ Smith, and on this episode, I have the pleasure of being joined by Steph Palmieri, a coach with the High Styx Field Hockey Club. Steph, thank you so much for spending some time with me on this episode.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're going to go into how you found the sport of field hockey first, your time with High Styx Field Hockey and building the program, building the club, and building up student athletes for their college career. So let's dive right in first, talking about how did you find the sport of field hockey?
It's a sort of long and winding path. I remember when I was a kid, so I was born in 85, so I'm getting up there a little bit. I remember soccer was the big thing so I grew up, I went to Wissahick in high school, and so I grew up in Bluebell, and soccer was the big thing. So I played soccer, and I think I was in about 4th or 5th grade, and they were like, this thing called field hockey, there's going to be some teams, and I think my mom signed me up, and I did it like once or twice. I was like, what is this? I don't know what I'm doing. So then it just fell off the radar. I played softball, I played soccer, and then in high school, I remember one of my soccer teammates was like, oh, we're all just going to play freshman field hockey because it seems like fun. And it at the time, and it might still be this way, but at the time it was field hockey was in the fall and women's soccer was in the spring. So we were just looking for something to do, and I played defense, and I like barely remember it because I had really never held a stick before. I was a goalie in soccer, and I remember the field hockey coach at high school saying, well, they're practically the same thing, so why don't you just, and I was like, okay, they're not the same thing at all. But so I remember my friend Mallory, she's still my oldest friend, we've known each other since kindergarten, got the equipment, and she's helping me put it on. She doesn't know what she's doing, I don't know what I'm doing. We're putting the goalie gear on in my backyard. And then I remember going to it was mainline like summer league at Hatboro Horsham, and I remember going, and I managed to get the gear on. I had never played before, and I remember getting knocked on my butt, like a girl ran into me. And I was like, I'm in, this is for me. So I remember in high school then, it was my sophomore year, and I think I played 1 or 2 JV games, and then she pulled me up to varsity, and that was really awesome. We had an amazing year that year, and there were ups and downs with that coach and with that high school team, but I'd always wanted to play softball in college, and I was playing travel softball. Every weekend we're playing. When I got to Lehigh, so we'd send out recruiting tapes, and back then it was videotapes, right?
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
videotapes, not YouTube videos, and we weren't getting any bites. Like my parents had not ever gotten to go to college, and the internet was pretty rudimentary still, and we didn't know what we were doing. So I got there, and I walked onto the softball team, and played here and there. I didn't really get to play a lot in my career, which was fine. It was truly one of the best experiences of my life. Those women are still my family. The year after my sophomore year in the summer, I was on campus, and Coach Troyan had me working a camp. And coincidentally, the assistant at the time, Missy Grossman, she was also working the camp. And we got to chatting, and I was like, yeah, I played field hockey. Yeah, oh, what'd you play? Goalie. Interesting. And anytime you meet a goalie out in the world, you're like, we got to get this kid. We need goalies. So then I get a call from the head coach. He's like, hey, we've got a camp. Why don't you come on out and work it? I was like, yeah, all right. I could use the money. What? Bring your gear. Just bring your gear with you. Just bring your gear. Okay. Just put the gear on. Just put it on. I was like, okay. So there was a camper counselor game where it was like mixed, like campers and counselors on a team. And I remember right before the game, it was like a sleepover camp. And right before the game, Candy, the goalie coach at the time, taught me how to do something called a body drop. So on a corner, you go out, and if it's a direct shot, you kind of drop straight down like it's a dive, and you let the ball hit you and you deflect it. And their like top striker was taking the shot, and I saved it and like did the move, and I was like, I can't believe this. And they're like, why don't you just come on out to preseason? I was like, I don't know. So that was like a tough moment, because I was like, I'm not really playing at softball, but I love the team. I don't want to miss anything. And I talked with a lot of them, and they're like, you got to go for it. So I went out for preseason. I was woefully underprepared. I had to be in run club. I mean, I think I dropped 15 pounds in a couple weeks. Like, I'd never run so much in my life. And so I played the next 2 years. I got to play every minute of my senior year. And then I got to stay on as the grad assistant as I pursued my master's in education. And so I coached those 2 years at Lehigh as well.
That's incredible.
It's a wild story, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's so much to unpack too, because you're going for you learn the sport a little bit in high school, so it's not like, and you played, right? So it was That's such an incredible experience. Your primary focus is softball. You said you weren't getting hits, but tape, like that whole recruiting process, reaching out to coaches as well, getting seen at tournaments. How was that influential getting to college? Because you ended up going to Lehigh and walking on and still being a part of the team. So a lot of things have to take place for you to be able to be in a situation like that as well. So let's lean into that a little bit too.
Again, my parents and I, we had the will, but we didn't fully understand the process. And no one in my family had ever played college sports or gone to college really. So, and now I think it's even more complicated. I mean, this was back I started college in 2003, fall of 2003. And now it's like, there's so much overload. Everyone's got a video and everyone's got, and it's like really hard, I imagine, for coaches. And I coached as an assistant at DeSales, but I wasn't involved in the recruiting. It's so hard to filter out and like to see all the kids, and people like to see them multiple times. It's just so hard. But in that process, I think we were just trying to figure out, where did I belong as a student, as a human? And I still think that's the best route to take for kids, because if you get injured, if you end up going, I don't want to do this anymore, you don't want to have to transfer. You want to be a place where you feel comfortable. And I just remember taking a trip there with my dad and going, this is it. Like, as soon as I walked onto Lehigh's campus, I was like, this is where I'm going to be. So whether they recruit me or not, I'm coming here, and let's see about this walk-on situation. And thankfully it happened. And I spent 4 amazing years on the softball team and 2 on the field hockey team. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. It was incredible. If we hadn't started that process and gone looking, I don't know that I would have ended up where I did. It just kind of all fell into place.
So thinking back to your time as a student athlete at Lehigh University, and you mentioned playing every minute your senior year as a goalie on the field hockey team. Reflecting back, how important was that to take that extra step to make yourself uncomfortable and be comfortable being uncomfortable, to be in a situation like that, just with the sport of field hockey at the Division I level, but also playing softball as well?
Yeah, I love that, getting comfortable being uncomfortable. We try and teach the players that all the time, especially young women, who our world is particularly cruel to all young people, but to young women in particular. They're fighting for this, to be confident, but there's no situation in which you're ever going to be fully confident. You just got to go and start and try and see how it goes. And I just remember being so grateful. I had such good friends, a couple from high school that I still keep in touch with, who I reached out to and was like, what do you think about this? One who played at Muhlenberg for Coach Meg. And I reached out to her and was like, what do you think about all this? And she's like, I think you'll do it. And I was like, oh. And it just was this confident note of like, no, I think you'll do it. Like, you could do it. And I remember reaching out to my softball teammates and them just being like, you got to do this. Like, do this. And I am so grateful. To this day, like, our group of female friends at Lehigh, my softball teammates, we were really close with basketball because the Troyans, women's basketball. I brought in kind of field hockey. My roommate, Gina Lewandowski, she was my freshman roommate.
Soccer.
Hall of Famer, woo, professional player. I was her super fan. We still keep in touch to this day. We were all kind of linked together. It's just a group of women that genuinely wants the best for each other. And so I'm grateful that they provided that, like, do this. If you want to do it. Because then I would miss fall ball and they would drive by the field beeping. Stop it. I'm trying to practice. But yeah, so, taking a chance on myself, and again, knowing, I might not play. Who knows what's going to happen, but being part of a team is so worth being there. And I think that's the thing I want our young women to come away with at High Styx, is that whether you're on the A, B, or C team, or whether you're winning your games or losing them or whatever happens, being part of a team is about so much more than the wins and losses. Do we want to win? Yeah, of course. That feels really fun. It feels really good. But so does building your confidence and accountability and respect and getting exercise and learning about your body, building friendships. And like those are the things I want our kids at High Styx to walk away with. They probably won't remember most of the wins, but they'll remember the experiences. And that's what I took away from my Lehigh experience.
That's excellent. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now, you said you went to grad school at Lehigh, you have your master's, your grad assistant coaching there. You mentioned your stint at DeSales University. So talk a little bit about how you got involved in coaching after college.
Yeah. So the first thing that happened when I was back at home, so in 2009, I had my master's. I went back home, and I was living with my dad, and I just didn't have anything going. I was applying to PhD programs, but I was like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. One of my teammates from Lehigh, my field hockey teammates, she was a lifer at Penn Charter, which is an independent school in Philadelphia. And she was like, hey, there's an assistant position. I coach JV. They could use an assistant. Come on, get on out here. I'll put a word in for you. Okay. So I coached there as an assistant to the varsity team, and I got to spend time with Chelsea, who was my teammate. God, she makes me laugh. So that was really cool. And there was an amazing head coach there. And then one of the other assistants was like, can I see your resume? Like, just give me your, yeah. And she's like, why are you not subbing? What's going on? Like, I run the English department. Like, let's get you. And I was like, okay. Subbing, not a great gig, but I coached and I long-term sub there for a year, and then I stayed on a little bit longer as I started my PhD, and then I would help friends out, someone at Abington and someone here. I would just kind of go help out here and there. My husband and I, we had been in Ridley Park, but then we moved to Bethlehem. I saw the opening at DeSales for an assistant, and I was like, yeah, I want to coach, and I'm kind of working all these part-time gigs. I'm going to school, and I'd like to be coaching, so I put in for the interview, and I got the gig, and was there for 10 seasons, 9 of them with Lindsay Griffith turned goaler. She had been a national champ at Tufts, and she played with Taylor, who coached with Caitlin at Lehigh, right? So it's all connected. And that was just an incredible experience because at the D3 level, at least at DeSales, the grad assistant is really the full-time assistant. So I got to just come in. That's what I want. I want to come in and I want to do my thing on the field, offer whatever insight they might need, and like go home. We just had such a great, her and I are still excellent friends. We talk all the time, and she's an amazing coach, and we had various GAs over the times, but I really got to come in and work in goalie world and kind of take charge of that area. And I love working with goalies. I love teaching them the game, and that's kind of how I spent my time for 10 years there.
Yeah. You mentioned your coaching resume. You're at DeSales. What was that next step after DeSales?
Yeah, a lot of it is tied up with what do I want to do in my career, and it's something I'm still figuring out. And again, I have an opportunity that should be coming up next fall that hasn't been announced yet, but it's been a long journey of trying to figure it out. While I was at DeSales, I was also finishing my PhD at Temple. I was adjuncting 2 courses at Temple every semester, and I was assistant directing Lehigh Valley Summer Bridge, which is a nonprofit enrichment education program run out of Moravian Academy. So I was doing all these really intensive part-time jobs, and it wasn't sustainable anymore, and I loved those things, and I loved being able to do all those things. I needed something more permanent, and I was at Lehigh at a game and going, I gotta get back here. And I think I started in High Styx in 2021. And so the way I met Caitlin was when she got the job at Lehigh as the head coach. I just reached out to her and was like, hi, I'm an alumni. I live in the area. I'd love to take you to lunch. And we did meet up for lunch, and we just got to chatting, and then we ended up working together a little later. But she had reached out. I was like, hey, because again, Taylor knew Lindsay, and you want goalie coaches, right? You always want specialty coaches. And so she got me connected, and I've been doing it for the last couple of years. And even though I'm no longer at a college coaching, I think I've always been in education, and youth is a place where I really love to be. And so coaching kind of had to fall by the way in terms of the college coaching, because a lot of the positions are volunteer, are part-time, are seasonal. This allowed me to continue coaching through High Styx and being able to do it and still kind of create a really cool impact.
And you mentioned that impact with High Styx Field Hockey Club starting in 2021. What are some of the age groups that you have worked with, and who are you going to be currently working with this upcoming season?
Yeah, I've done them all.
Yeah.
I've done U8 a couple of times, which I love. I'm currently working with 2-year-olds at a daycare. So I have worked with 2-year-olds to college students, and they are all identical. They're all the same.
Yeah.
They all have things that they need, and they all have things that work and don't work. You need routine and you need structure. But so U8, I'm leading that group this year for the first time. I've worked with U12 a number of times, which I really love. I've worked with U14, U16, and this year I'm coaching U14 and U16. And then I work with the goalies at all levels. Like anytime I can stay at a practice and help out, I'm gonna jump in. So really all the levels.
Okay, so kind of incorporating the entirety of what the field hockey club is.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
being a part of those different age groups, how important is it to you that you get to see the growth of the athletes, the students that come into the club and see them progress throughout their career?
Yeah, that's been the coolest part. I'm grateful that they allow me to kind of go wherever. Like they're just like, "Hey, can you do this?" Yes, I can. And that they trust me at all the levels. It's really cool because now I know 75% of the kids in the program and I recognize them and I've coached a lot of them directly. So even if I don't recall their name off the top of my head, I know them. And it's amazing to see like a year later, they're taller, they're more in control of their body, they have a better skill set, they're just more well developed as human beings. That is one of my favorite parts is watching them grow into the person they're becoming, and into the player they're becoming. This year is really cool because I have a couple of kids on both teams that I've coached in previous years. And again, to see the progress they've made up here mentally as athletes and in here and their skills. And even just seeing us from a couple of weeks ago to now. I couldn't go to practice on Sunday. We were at the Nook. I was at the Nook for like 10 hours on Saturday. Caitlin was very gracious and gave me a break on Sunday. And she was coaching, working with my U16s, and they came on Monday night. And one of them was like, well, the lady was telling us this. I go, what lady? Who are you talking? The head lady. I go, Caitlin? Yeah, yeah. Caitlin had been like, I don't know if they were listening. I don't know if they got it. I go, no, they listened. They came with like 5 things that you said and wanted to try it. Like they wanted to do the corners and we did them, and
Yeah.
they were able to tell me what was working and what they thought they could do. And that was really cool, because that's not something that they might have been capable of in some previous ages. They're developing, their hockey IQ. So I really love working with all the ages, just seeing them grow and develop as they go through their time.
And seeing and working with the U16 team, getting to close to being the recruitable age athletes of finding colleges and getting noticed. What makes you passionate about helping those athletes find the right college destination?
First of all, what the club does really well is offers a lot of opportunities for families and players to get that information. Between Caitlin, the Kutztown coaches, the Muhlenberg coach, there's so many college coaches on our roster and so many excellent high school coaches on our roster that have been through the process many, many times over. So there's no question a kid or family can ask that can't be answered. And for me, where I see myself fit into the process is not necessarily helping them to pick a place, but to develop their intangibles, the way they think and the way they see themselves and the way they operate. So one of my biggest things is let's focus on what's right in front of us. Right? Because the young ones are always like, well, who are we going to play? I'm like, well, that's 4 games from now. Like, what's happening right now? I'm just going to focus on, I don't care who we're playing because we're going to play the same way every time, especially with the 12s, the 14s, the 16s. I'm like, let's just focus on what's right in front of us. What can we control and how are we going to do that? And so to me, I feel like I'm hopefully building skills in athletes where they can go through that process and be able to say yes or no to a variety of different questions. Yes, this is for me. No, it's not. Or, wow, this place feels really good and here's why. Or I will be capable of playing at a college level because I can handle the pressure and the challenges and the changes. My college experience, I loved. I would go back in a heartbeat. My parents and I didn't have a lot of guidance. So I want to see kids end up where they want to be, whether that's college or not. Some of our kids go and work on a family farm or they go into various industries right away. Great. That's how I do Summer Bridge too. We want our kids to pursue the path that feels right for them, but to have a reason for it. If our kiddos at High Styx want to pursue college and playing in college, then I want them to find the place for them because it was such a profound experience for me and my friends that I would love for them to have that same experience.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So looking at yourself as a coach with High Styx Field Hockey Club, what and how would you describe your coaching style?
I think I'm pretty enthusiastic and full of energy, as you might be able to tell. My whole educational philosophy, especially in these later years, post-COVID years, is really like, I'm not going to raise my voice. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to be that person that is screaming or making you feel bad about yourself. I'm not going to do that. So to me, I'm more of like hey, let's take a second. Let's be calm. What do you need? How can I help you? That's tough at the Nook because you're screaming like, please, you got to hear the corner, and they're like, what? I want to pump kids up. I want them to feel like they matter to me and in general. I want them to know that I know who they are, but I just want them to know that I see them and that they're important to me and that their progress is important to me. That I just told my teams this past weekend, I said, I could not care less if we win by 10 goals or lose by 10 goals. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is that we're putting in our best effort. I always want to walk that, I think, fine line between, my generation of millennials, a little slightly older millennials, we came through a moment in time where it was like participation trophy culture. And I don't like that. I don't think that's good for anyone, right? Like, you don't get a gold star for just doing the bare minimum or the baseline expectations, but at the same time, winning is not everything, and all the things we talked about before in this interview of like building your confidence, exercising, being accountable to other people. Like these are the things that are important. Part of my coaching style is to also loop in the families and the grown-ups. So usually at the Nook, after the fourth game, we get 4 games, I'll make the families come around too. And sometimes I'll explain a weird rule that happened or just like what we were working on, because I want families to get in the car and be like, you did this thing. I saw you do this thing, not just good job when they really didn't do it. You want them to support the right thing. So with the U8s, I'm making them come out at the beginning and end of practice. And then I'll have, sometimes the grown-ups have to answer questions and sometimes the kids get to show their grown-ups answers. For me, it's like, I do want to win, but I don't want to win at the cost of our dignity and our sportsmanship. But I'm also like, especially in goalie world, if we're working on something like a diving and then it happens, I'm just gonna go nuts for you, right? And she got you, and so you'll know. And this is at Summerbridge too. Like when I tell you something was really excellent, you'll feel really good about it, right? 'Cause I'm not gonna give you a gold star for doing your job. I'm gonna give you a gold star for something amazing that like you've been working on it and you nailed it. You did it.
Yeah.
So that to me is who I am as a coach.
And you've been referencing this past weekend. So talk a little bit about what's happened so far since the season has started and the progress you've seen from the first practice to this past weekend.
Indoor is always tough, or travel club ball in any sport, because you don't get to practice like you do in school. It's not 5 days a week. It's 1 day a week or 2. And it's often like we practice on Monday and then we don't play until Saturday. So you have to cram so much into such a short period of time. But my 2 teams, we really only had 2 practices together as a team before we played. And that can be a really scary thing, especially for anyone new to indoor field hockey or new to the program. What I noticed was the way a lot of the players were communicating. Like on a corner, I could see them go, no, you have to go here. Great. That's what we have to do, right? We got to figure it out together. I love watching one of our goalies for U14. She's brand new to goalieing. Coach Underwood was like, we got to get this kid in goal. And she's got the aptitude for it and she's got the personality for it. And just watching her make some really amazing saves, and she's still so unrefined. Like she has so much potential. Seeing that, like, she wasn't getting down, like just because goals were going in sometimes she was like, okay, fine, where's the next one, like let's play. For me, it was up here a lot of the progress. And again, seeing kids 2 years later after having coached them, even from that first practice to now, I just see the confidence growing, the skill level, like watching kids do a pull when before they weren't doing it, was really, really cool. So, and that's only going to keep going, right? Like we've just started that journey, and it's just going to keep getting better and better.
During your time with High Styx, what has been your favorite memory that you can think of, your greatest moment that you've experienced being with the High Styx Field Hockey Club?
When I get to go there, it's just such a great break from everything because it feels really safe. The women on staff, Caitlin has put together a heck of a staff. Incredible women, incredible at their jobs, whatever those jobs are out in the world. Sometimes field hockey coach, sometimes engineer or whatever. Incredibly intelligent and talented field hockey players and coaches. And just amazing women. I know I could go to them for anything. Like, even if I don't know them that well, I know I could go to them for anything. I've really loved getting to know a bunch of the coaches that I'd kind of seen in passing. So that has been really amazing and really special. And then just working with the kids. Again, one of my favorite things is just seeing kids over the years and how they grow up and how they develop and who they become. And knowing that maybe I was just like a little bit of a part of that has been really awesome. So not really a specific memory, but just kind of the combined people and the place.
As we get ready to wrap up this episode, Steph, why should parents and potential new athletes consider and choose High Styx Field Hockey Club?
Yeah, again, what I just said, you are not going to get a better coaching staff. Excellent high school coaches to excellent college coaches. I mean, Caitlin won a Patriot League championship. We have national champions, Division II national champion coaches, and they've been so close 2 years, after. The women on staff are not just there to teach your kid field hockey. They're there to teach them how to be excellent human beings, how to adapt and how to face challenges and how to fail and get back up, which is, our society has not been kind to the younger generation. We've not really taught them how to do things for themselves and how to be accountable, but we're going to teach you that in various ways. Every coach is a little bit different, and some coaches are going to be really stern and strict, and some are going to be a little bit looser. But what's really cool too is that your kid will get to work with a bunch of different coaches, right? We're filling in for each other. We're at practices together and, working with other teams. And in my experience, the young women who play on our teams are just really excellent human beings. That experience of club field hockey, being at the Nook all day or being in that skating rink, sports have been such an important part of my life, whether I was on the bench or on the field. It was all worth it and all really important. And so what we'll do with your kids is we'll put them on the team we think their skill level matches, but there's always room to grow and change and adjust. And whether you're on the A team, the B team, or the C team, you're going to get an excellent experience. You're going to learn about field hockey. You're going to learn about yourself, and you're going to learn how to be a teammate. And I can't think of a better place to do that.
Excellent. Steph Palmieri, thank you so much for spending some time with me on this episode of the High Styx Highlights Podcast. It's been a pleasure to learn about your journey, your experiences, and everything that you bring to the table as a coach at High Styx Field Hockey Club.
Thanks, LJ. I really appreciate it.